member of the European Parliament. Let's ask him straight out. Stephen, a very good morning to you. Welcome to the show. What is the point of UKIP, please?
Good morning, Mike, and good morning, Katie. Many like many of your listeners are actually asking that very same question. I mean, I know what the point of UKIP should be, and that should be that it is the party that wants to make sure that everything that we campaigned for in the referendum, all the real point of leaving the European Union should actually happen. And that means you need a political party that can challenge the government when it's wavering. It should also be a political party that's out there to help those people. Remember, in 2015, 4 million people voted for UKIP that feel left behind from the Labour Party and the Conservative Party. But they're certainly not doing any of that at all. And they've been navel-gazing, infighting, bullying each other, name-calling for the past 18 months. And really, it's a shambles. They're a shambles. And in many ways, perhaps they should be put out to grass.
Well, I mean, indeed, somebody really might want to put them out of their misery, because whatever happens to Henry Bolton, I don't think very many people in the world care about that. Who cares who comes next, to be honest?
Well, there are very few people left. I mean, in my view, I was looking through the list of people that could actually lead the party who've got any credibility. And Susan Evans, she was roundly criticised and attacked by members of her own party. Peter Whittle, who was done exactly the same during the leadership campaign. David Curtin, who was briefed against by the very same people who were briefing against the current leader. And what you find has happened after Nigel Farage left, and I found when I went to challenge for the leadership, is that a group of kind of nasty cabal within the leadership of the executive and some of their supporters in MEPs who really have a totally different agenda to that of what UKIP was about, just attacked anybody that seemed sensible or capable of taking the party forward. And that's what they're left with, a really nasty bullying cabal who will perhaps take over and lead this to the final demise of UKIP with no votes. And wait till May. I will make a prediction there'll be virtually no seats left in council elections for May, and they've made it worse over the last few weeks.
Well, of course, you vacated your UKIP seat in Parliament and you now stand as an independent. But you've got what you wanted. We voted for Brexit. Why don't you just jack it in and come home and save everyone the taxpayer money?
That's a good question.
Katie, if I really believed I've got everything that I wanted at the moment, then perhaps I would have done that. But if I look at the way that things are going, and you saw I went out and met Michelle Barnier last week with Lord Digby-Jones, John Mills and John Longworth, three very respected business people from across the party, the Labour Party, funder in John Mills, Conservative in John Longworth, and cross-bench with Lord Digby-Jones, because we're deeply concerned that all the negativity from the ultra-Remainers like Adonis, who are trying to prevent Brexit from occurring, trying to prevent a really positive trade deal from actually happening, and really undermining our own nation and its people within it. And that's why I'm still campaigning and battling to provide the positive response to those negative arguments put forward by the ultra-Remainers, what I call the ABC clan, Adonis, Blair and Clegg clan.
I see this morning, by the way, that Lord Mandelson has been throwing his hat into the ring as well, offering his able assistance to anyone who cares to listen. Luckily, nobody seems to want to listen to him.
Well, I think he should have told the lesson of Tony Blair, who threw his hat in, I think, about 10 days ago, saying he could lead anything. Look, at the end of the day, what we have is a very difficult situation for us in terms of the world of politics. It's changing fundamentally. Huge numbers of people are fed up with the status quo. That's why you got a lot of people voting for Brexit. That's why you see the rise of different types of parties left and right across Europe. Why, in many ways, you saw what happened with the President of the United States in Donald Trump. And really, we should be offering a kind of sense of hope that the future is going to be better, that the concerns of people, whether it's in your housing or your health, whether it's the way that we look after our children, making sure that they've got something to look forward to, we can be pulling together. And I believe Brexit could be that opportunity.
Well, in that case, Stephen, don't you need to get behind Aaron Banks and Nigel Farage and form this new Brexit party?
Well, I'm going to wait and see. My personal concern at the moment of a new political party is not that I'm against new political parties. I think they're very important. In a healthy democracy, we need to see the rise of people's views being listened to, and parties can operate in that way. My main concern at the moment is not to be deflected from making sure that the Brexit that we have is positive. And even over the past few days, we've seen some people come out who were against it. We've had those economists recognising that they over-egged the pudding by giving doom and gloom. We had O'Neill this morning, who used to be the Trade Minister, who supported the government and saying we should remain, saying that UK's economy is going to blossom over the next couple of years. And I think that's what will happen. People will see that the world hasn't stopped, things move on, and then if a new political party comes along to try and bring out new issues that I've talked about, health, education, etc., that are coming through, then by all means I'll look and listen. But is Nigel the man that can unify people on the issue of immigration, which will remain incredibly important? Can he do so of the National Health Service, or education or social mobility? I'm not sure, but if he can transform, then I'll look and listen. But at the moment, I think, in my view, the Conservative Party are the only ones who are working towards Brexit. The Labour Party...
Well, you agree with Jacob Rees-Mogg then. He was on the breakfast show with Julie Hartley-Brewer, and he basically said whoever voted for UKIP at the last election might as well not bother voting them ever again and vote Tory instead, because the Tories are actually going to make Brexit happen.
Well, I think if Jacob Rees-Mogg and his really strong supporting group of MPs who understand what those Brexit voters wanted are able to achieve that, then of course he's right. Absolutely. But you also have to look at the underlying voters in UKIP too. They weren't all ex-Conservatives. I mean, the Labour Party effectively was not able to gain in 2015 because of the number of Labour supporters that voted UKIP. And they have a different agenda. They want to see more social mobility. They want to see those people ensure they've got solid jobs. They want to make sure that their family do have the right amount of money funded into the National Health Service and also in schools. And the Conservative Party also have to reflect those people too. And there are changes in the Conservative Party. You can certainly see that with the way that you have Priti Patel and James Cleverly, very strong voices of a BAME community working very well, and Conservative voices too. But they still have a long way to go to prove that the working class of the country have a representative voice in their party too.
Stephen, the Conservative Party is as split on Brexit as it ever was, and indeed you'll see that over the next few months, especially as we come to March time, and we're a year away from actually exiting the European Union. And you've got Treasury Select Committee Chairwoman Nicky Morgan and others. So that's not quite the home for UKIP supporters either, is it? Isn't it the problem that UKIP supporters are now homeless?
I would say that for many of them, they will feel homeless. They will naturally gravitate towards the Conservative Party at the moment because at least they're managing to do something on Brexit. But their real deep doubts is, as you've just identified, people like Anna Soubry and Nicky Morgan and others who are the ultra-Remainers, as I say, part of the ABC clan, who are really doing damage to Britain in the long term by fighting a battle that's already been lost. Really what they should be doing is getting behind the country and saying, OK, how do we move on with Brexit? Represent those people. Let them. They've had their vote. They had the referendum. We argued. We lost. Let's now try and get a great trade deal moving forward. And
but in the case, Stephen, hang on a second. In the case of some of these individual MPs that you're referring to, if their constituency voters backed Remain, actually they are representing the people that they are asked to represent by making sure that they're asking the right questions and pointing out that actually this may not be as straightforward as at first believed.
Absolutely, Mikey. You're a really important point to ask questions. That's the whole purpose of an MEP, and also to represent the views. But when you take someone like Anna Soubry, her constituency overwhelmingly voted to leave. So not only is she going against her own party's manifesto, her own party's current policy, and the people in her constituency, she's doing it on her own accord. Now, there is an argument that perhaps she should leave and join up with others like, Clive Lewis or Chuka Umunna, who equally have the same sort of views at a different party. And maybe that's what we'll move to, a kind of transformation of parties here. But the reality is, when you're in a time of a negotiation between the United Kingdom and the European Union, you must recognise, as I did and Barnier made very clear to me, he's representing the EU 27. If you have people in the United Kingdom doing his job for him by undermining the negotiation position of the government, he's delighted. And of course, the MEPs I meet currently in the European Parliament get ecstatic by that. Verhofstadt smiles every time he hears Soubry and Morgan having a go at their government, because it helps them to achieve a better deal. And that's why I say we must now rally behind the government to ensure that we get the best deal. Raise questions by all means, but don't undermine it to the extent that you actually help the other side.
What are they saying over there this morning about Emmanuel Macron's point to Andrew Marr that actually there would probably have been a Brexit vote in France if they'd had it as well? Well, it could have been Frexit, I suppose, wouldn't it?
Well, we've had the words Frexit, Dexit, Lexit for some time. Actually, he's helped me achieve one of my best Twitter results for quite a while, because he's actually said what we've known for a long time. Huge numbers of the people of Europe actually are very, very concerned about the European project. Remember what the European project is about. It's creating the new country, the United States of Europe. And not all European citizens want that. And all Macron reflected was what's happening in his country. They love their country, France. They love its culture, its foods, its ideals. They like the idea of being in Europe, but they feel that the country, this kind of political project, isn't what they wanted or voted for. And after all, if you remember, they've once voted against the European Constitution and were told to vote again. It's the same in Greece. I've seen it in Spain, and now you can see in Catalan for slightly different reasons. You've seen the growth in Austria, in a president there that's representing views similar to those who would vote against the European Union in France or other countries. It's there. They're concerned about the euro. They're concerned about huge numbers of youth unemployment. Right? You've got to look at some of these numbers. And they say that Europe's been good for growth. 50% youth unemployment in Greece, 42% in Italy, Croatia sitting in there in the 30s. The best country in Europe in terms of economics is Germany, and it still has youth unemployment at 8%, and nearly 1 million homeless people in Germany. That can't be a good sign for the European Union. Something is wrong there, and the people of France recognise it.
And one final question, Stephen. When are you up for election next, and who will you be running for?
Well, I voted to make myself unemployed. When I voted to leave, I will be unemployed in March 2019, and at the moment I'm working towards that. I mean, politics is a hard game. Like, I'm going
only a politician will be working for a year to be unemployed. That's a ridiculous situation. You might as well just walk away now, mightn't you?
As I said, if the job was done and I knew we got what we got, I would have gone. I would have loved to get out of some of the real nastiness that surrounds this particular profession, career, job, or whatever you like to call it, and go back to a real job. But in the meantime, I've got to work as hard as I can to March next year and make sure I can do the best I can for what I believe those who voted for Brexit and get that deal that they wanted. All
right, Stephen, thank you very much for joining us. Stephen Woolfe there, former UKIP MEP, now independent MEP, working towards the dole queue.
Well,
why does it take a year to do that?
Oh, well, maybe he's assessing his options, as they like to say. We asked Douglas...
You didn't frankly have the balls to put country before party.